Preserved lemons are versatile, last for a long time, and can really amp up the flavor on your dishes. Hi guys, this is Rind, author of The Palestinian Table, and more recently, The Arabesque Table, which is out now in the US. Today, we're going to be doing some preserved lemons, which is a wonderful recipe to have in your arsenal. When we're done with it, we're going to actually do a lentil and preserved lemon soup. So why don't we get started? Generally, in terms of measurements, I do 140 grams of salt, or about 5 ounces of salt for every kilogram of lemons. Today, we're doing about half that. So you just slice a little bit off the edge to get it to stand straight. And then you go down, but you leave a little bit at the bottom. And then you do the other angle. And now you've got almost like a flower. Now, what you want to do is you want to take a teaspoon of salt. And first of all, open that initial slit that you did and put the salt inside it. Do this over your bowl of salt because a lot of it is going to come out, and this way you'll be able to use the rest of it. Now I've opened it from the other side, and the salt is covering it from all the different angles. Once you've done that, is you get a jar and you put the lemon in it. You try to squeeze it, and this will actually get some juices into the jar itself. There we go. If your jar is too small or you have a lemon that's too big, it is not a problem at all to actually cut it in half. I just find it's nicer to keep the shape intact if your jar size permits. You can top it up with lemon juice. This jar, you're supposed to technically sterilize it, heat it in boiling water. I find that if you wash it with soapy, very warm soapy water, you're perfectly fine. You're preserving lemons and salt, which are often the ingredients used to prevent mold, bacteria, etc. So right now here I have a cup of water, which I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt to and dissolve it. And then I'm going to add it over the lemons. I would leave just a little bit of space over which we're going to drizzle some olive oil because that will prevent any kind of mold or yeast from forming. Cover it. And you set it aside for at least 2 weeks, preferably a month, to allow the flavors to really develop. Right now, I actually have one which I did a month ago. So this is what it looks like after a month. Because it had the olive oil on top, it's been out at room temperature for a month and nothing has happened to it. It's perfectly clean and looks exactly the way it did on that first day we did it. So here's what I actually do once I've preserved the lemons. I discard the flesh on the inside. I keep the skin and I put it in a food processor and grind it. And then what I end up with is this ground preserved lemon rind. I put it in small containers like this. You can put it in ice cube trays and put it in the freezer. And then it's so easy. Any recipe you want, you pop out one of these, you pop out an ice cube, you throw it in and you're done. There's no mincing, there's no peeling, there's nothing. It's super easy. Okay guys, so we're gonna start on the lentil and preserved lemon soup. It's such an easy soup. I mean, lentil is a staple. It's very easy to put together, but the preserved lemon and the chili paste, the harissa, shatta, whatever you want to call it, if you use it at the end, it also amps up the flavor. I like to start with a base of carrots, celery, onions, and garlic. So you can chop them here into any size that you want. If you prefer them bigger, that works. I like them small just so that everything is roughly around the same size. I'm using Huy lentils, which is a French lentil that is a little bit smaller than your average green or brown lentil that you might get from the supermarket. And the reason I really prefer to use this over the traditional kind is that it holds its shape much better than the brown or green lentils. A lot of this experimenting with cooking started during COVID. You know, you're stuck at home, you're trying to avoid the grocery store as much as possible, so you start rummaging through your pantry and you're like, oh, okay, so what can I do to make what I have left right now taste better than it normally would? Literally, I had some lentils and I wanted to make something super quick for lunch. I opened my fridge, I had some preserved lemon, I had some chilies, and I decided to throw it in. Now we make it on a regular basis at home. This is why soups like lentil soup with preserved lemon work well, because it's very hard to mess it up. You know, you like it a bit more sour, you add a bit more lemon. You like it spicy, you add chili. You don't like it spicy, you're fine, you don't need to. So now the onion, and then the garlic. Okay guys, so we're gonna get started on the lentil soup. We're gonna start out with a couple tablespoons of olive oil. We are going to add now the celery the onions and the carrots because those are the ones that will take the longest to cook. Add about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of salt on these vegetables. It's good to season throughout while you're cooking, just so that every layer gets the flavor in it, but the salt also helps extract the water from these vegetables so that they cook down a bit faster and they sweat rather than burn while you're frying them. And this step will take some time. The onions and the carrots and the celery will probably take at least 3 to 5 minutes to start softening. So don't rush it because you do get a nicer flavor when they actually take their time and release their flavors and the sugars in them start to caramelize a bit. So we're gonna add the garlic in now. The vegetables have started to brown. And this you don't wanna do for a long time. You really just wanna do it for 30 seconds, maybe just until the garlic is fragrant. You can smell it, you don't need to give it any color. Just before I add the water now, I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of cumin, black pepper. And cumin and black pepper are two of the most popular spices in Middle Eastern cuisine in general. And they go very well together. Now we're going to add the water in, which is going to help us deglaze whatever has stuck to the bottom. I'm going to use about 5 cups of water. We're just going to bring it to a simmer. We are going to add the lentils now. I see a little bit of bubbles just starting to come up around the edges, so it's warm enough. I've just stirred everything to combine. We're going to leave this on a medium heat, bring it to a boil. If it starts boiling too vigorously, lower it. You still want a vigorous simmer, you just don't want foam coming out of the pot. The lentils have been cooking now for about 20 minutes. Yeah, they seem to be done. You can always just taste 1 or 2 to make sure that they're not too crunchy. I have here probably a full lemon, which is probably about 2 tablespoons. But again, this is more up to your liking. You don't have to use that full amount if you don't want to. Now, we have the preserved lemon. I'm actually going to add this whole entire thing, which is about a tablespoon and a half. Just want to stir it in, make sure it really mixes well. There is an option, which I've put in the recipe, to add harissa, which is the Moroccan version of chili paste. If you don't have that, honestly, even if you had like an Asian garlic chili paste, it would also work. It's more just to add spice. So using your favorite chili paste is totally fine. I'm only going to add a bit into it. Now that the preserved lemon has mixed in well, I'm gonna add the spinach. I have about 2 cups here and it's gonna wilt once you put it in. So it's not gonna be as much as it seems to be in this bowl. Okay guys, so I think this is it. We're done. Now we're just gonna have to taste it and make sure that it's good. You see the texture, there's some broth, but there's a lot of vegetables in it as well. If you want, and I often do this, the chili that I put into the soup, you can always add just a little bit on the side of your plate. And if you like spicy food, it's good. If not, you can skip it, but I personally love it. And you can see how the soup is light, but it's still hearty with all the vegetables and lentils and spinach. Wow, the lemon, it really stands out in the soup. I mean, you can taste it. It's the first thing that hits your palate, but then you get all the sweetness from the vegetables. The lentils are almost meaty, which goes so well with the spice and the citrus. Definitely make this recipe and click the link below to find it. Or if you want, you can also buy my cookbook, and the recipe and many, many more are in there. Thank you guys for watching. Even my kids who don't like eating very much actually enjoy it. The irony is not lost on me. I mean, I write about food for a living, and then I have kids who tell me my food is not good and refuse to eat it.